Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 22 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us on the phone this morning, we have author and historian David Minton on the phone. Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Oh, good morning. Doing fine. How are you?
Well, doing great. How's life down there in Lee County this morning?
Oh, it's always great down here. Doesn't matter what the weather is or anything else. It's a great place to be.
Well, I know they're teasing us with some moisture later this week. Hopefully you guys get to see some of that too.
Yes, sir. Sure.
It's one of those things. We can never complain about the moisture if we could just figure out a way to not get it all in one day.
Yes.
Well, for folks that have not heard, we've talked quite a bit about this, but we do want to keep reminding folks to put it on your calendars for this Saturday. The Historical Society for Southeast New Mexico is having their historic book fair. It's going to be this Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to noon, and it'll be at the Historical Society's archive building there on Lee, 208 North Lee. It's right next to the museum there. And they're going to have an opportunity for folks to buy basically the extras. Obviously, the Historical Society collects items. People donate things over the years. And so we've got quite an assortment of rare books, out-of-print books you just can't get anymore. They're very collectible, some that are, a lot of them obviously dealing with our history here in Southeast New Mexico. But so we have these extras. You know, we only have so much space. So we're selling the books. Now, we had a caveat with some people asking, David, so I want to throw this out there. The books that are going to be available on Saturday, these aren't the good copies. And what I mean by that is you're getting cool books, but if there's all these books that they're selling, there's multiple copies of. The best copy is being kept with the Historical Society. Those are staying in the archives for preservation, but the extra ones we're going to sell. Now, they'll even cannibalize, so if there's one book that the spine's better, but the dust jacket's better on the other one, they'll put the dust jacket on. And so I just want to reassure people we're not depleting the archives of the archives facility. We're just getting rid of some of the extra stuff and making that an opportunity for the public there. But on top of that, we're going to have some great local authors here. David will be there signing his book, which we're going to talk a little bit about here in just a few. But Donna Blake Burchell, of course, she's got many books dealing with like the Wicked Women and various other topics. John LeMay, our very own here, who's written a bunch of books on Lincoln County War and even a few Godzilla ones in there too. But David, his book, your book is focusing on the pioneers of Lee County, which I got to admit, I'm not real knowledgeable on some of the Lee County history. I'm not originally from New Mexico. I moved here about 20 years ago, and now I'm settled here in Roswell. I came here from the military. So I got to admit, David, I'm a little naive on some of the Lee County history. Are you native to that area, or you just came there and fell in love with the history?
Born and raised here.
Okay.
Lee County, it's a relatively new county compared to most of the rest of the state. It wasn't formed until March 7th of 1917.
Okay.
And it was formed out of parts of Chaves County and Eddy County.
Okay.
Actually, Lovington is the north edge of it there. Gum Street is at one time north of Gum Street was Chaves, and below it was Eddy County. So
okay.
But my little book, it's just a conglomeration of stories I'd done over the years, events, and some are kind of semi-biography. It's not a big book, 147 pages and about 51 little articles in there, but I like to write about people that, for the most part, nobody really ever heard of.
Sure.
Try to keep people remembered that may not have been,
Well, and that's why I always say why we talk about the importance of our historical societies, obviously down in your area and here in Chaves County and Lincoln County. If without these entities, without people like yourself recording this history, who who's going to keep it? Who's going to preserve it? What happens to this stuff when it's kind of forgotten? And it's lost to history, and that's why it's so important for us to remember it. Because if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it.
Yes, yeah. I'm pretty grateful for the society over there. I was a member several years ago and kind of got away from it, but I've come back and want to be a big part of it if I can.
So let me ask you, for your when you this book, when you're writing it, was how much of it was you growing up in Lee County learning some of this stuff versus how much of it was you having to actually go out and do a little digging?
It's all me doing a little digging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did like, just because I would imagine, as a native Lee County resident, it's we live in a small world. Everyone grows up around. I mean, was it like the families of some of the pioneers? I mean, was there those kind of connections
yes.
for you growing up there? That kind of.
Oh yeah, I've known a lot of the early day families, or a generation or two later, and sadly, so many of them have gone away, and the stories have gone away. I used to have a lot of old timers to go to, and now I'm the old timer.
Don't you hate when that happens? Oh yeah, that's one of those days when you realize, hey, what happened? I became the old one.
Yeah,
I have been there, done there, got that T-shirt. So now let me ask: was this something like for you? Is because I know you've also published other books or co-wrote other books and things. Is this something that's always been in your blood, or did this just come to you later?
I think it's kind of in my blood. My dad, he was a doctor here in Lovington for about 50 years, but he was really interested in the history of New Mexico. And
Okay.
And as I was growing up, I traveled all around the state with him to forts and ghost towns and everything you can think of. And so it's kind of been instilled in me from an early day. Yes.
What? So did your dad's love of it kind of just rub off on you? You think, or because I know like.
Yeah.
Because like for me, because as a history guy myself, my parents weren't necessarily in it. I kind of grew up around. I grew up in Maryland, right outside of D.C., Southern Maryland. I mean, I lived in just a culture or a historical mecca with
Oh yeah.
Dr. Mudd's house, who's a gentleman who set John Wilkes Booth leg when he assassinated Lincoln. His home was 5 minutes from where I grew up, and so things like that's what got me into it. So I didn't know if his dad having books laying around the house and that kind of stuff. You just pick it up at some point, or do you go on some of the adventures?
My dad had quite a library there in his den. He was born and raised in Roswell.
Okay.
Matter of fact, 1920, and like I say, he was just big into history from a child himself. One time, somebody from the Smithsonian came out, and Daddy was still riding a bicycle in those days, and then they picked him up and went out to a big Indian camp there, southwest of Roswell, and did some work. And so I just grew up listening to it and watching it and being part of his research, and I got hooked.
Good deal. Now, and this is from my own personal and a little naivete here, so please excuse me. But the Lee County, or was it always oil and gas country for you growing up there, or did that something that come in later?
Well, during my lifetime, yeah, the first oil well was drilled in the Maljamar area.
Okay.
They're just below the Cap Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was 1926.
Okay.
So oil and gas has always been here, but there was lots of ranching.
Okay.
And,
so is that why Lee County got, or really people settled there? Was it for the ranching purposes initially?
A lot of homesteaders moved in the early days and homesteaded and put their places together, a quarter section at a time, buying up their neighbors, and made some big ranches in here in the area. But time marches on and things change, and we've still got a lot of big ranches, but it was more in the past.
Sure.
A lot of the big ones.
So, during I'm trying to, like you said, it was established here in a little bit later. Obviously the state 1912, and then about 8 years later here with Lee County. Were people settled in that area during like the Lincoln County War days in the 1870s and area? Were people settling there, or was it relatively barren at that point?
It was very barren.
Okay.
The Shafter and came up through here with some of his buffalo soldiers looking for water sources, and other than a spring or two, there just really wasn't any surface water. So
Okay.
the settling came later. I may be off a little bit on this. I believe the oldest house around here is about 1879, or
Okay.
give or take a decade.
So there's a couple people lingering around, but then the neighborhood moved in later.
There you go. There you go.
But I would imagine, especially for those first, pioneers to the community, life must have been pretty rough getting them going and getting a town established. And like you said, just that area isn't as prevalent with water and stuff like farther up the Pecos Valley here. You just kind of, you got to imagine when they come through and see it, and it's like, well, here's home, fellas, and sit down. I imagine that's got to be quite I don't know, just when the homesteaders pick that spot, it's just, you always wonder what goes through their head when they decide this is the spot we want to settle,
Well, and they apparently they must have left someplace more miserable,
This is true. It's all about perspective sometimes.
And then they got to drill a well or dig a well, and back in the early days, well, even there used to be a sign outside Lovington that talked about how it was an area of shallow water.
Mm.
You could just go down 20, 30 feet and hit water a lot of times, but that's changed with all the big farms east of here.
Well, that's what they say, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting right around here in this area. So,
Yeah.
Was there some of that kind of history in Lee County as far as disputes and things over stuff like water rights? Where, I mean, obviously not to the scale of what we saw in the Lincoln County Wars, but were there some of those famous or infamous feuds or disputes or things that went on in Lee County's history?
Well, there's been a few feuds, probably most of it over fence lines or something. There was, of course, there's different reasons given depending on who you're talking to, but there was a chairman of a county commission here that shot and killed a guy on the main street up there at Tatum back in, I believe, 32. And did a little prison time for that.
Wow.
That was they were neighboring ranchers, and it real bad.
I imagine that was the biggest news of the day when it happened too.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And they even, the very next county commission meeting, they held it in the jail so that the chairman of the commission could be there.
I would love to have been a fly on the wall to watch that proceeding.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, it's almost like watching an Andy Griffith sitcom. It seems like I feel like we're in Mayberry there, and Otis is hanging out, running the show here. But that's pretty neat. I love that kind of stuff. I love. Now, when you do your research and for your book, obviously, you're going through a lot of records and books and journals and things like that to gather it. But did you come across just like cool objects and things, like when you're going through and talking with people, like heirlooms and just collectibles? Do you ever get a chance to see some of that side of the stuff when you're doing your research?
Yes, I do. And there are times that people will show up here in my office bringing me something
Okay.
uh, to not only see, but to put in the archives, I guess you could say. Uh, Last week, a fellow brought me uh, 7 or 8 copies of Farmer's Almanac that dated back into the 20s.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Are they in good shape?
I just not bad,
Okay.
not bad. A little ragged some of them, but
But still very
you know,
readable and put together as a
yeah,
book still. So that's great.
no,
I would imagine if, and I hate, but I would think if you picked up like a farmer's almanac from 100 years ago and then looked at one, a more recent one, you're probably, I mean, obviously technology's changed the way it's put together and stuff, but I imagine it probably reads and one could pick up a book from 100 years ago. You know what I mean? It would be seamlessly similar. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
that and and like in old newspapers also, their terminologies were different sometimes in those days. Sometimes you got to figure out quite what they're talking about because it's not words like what we use today.
Sure. And I would imagine too, the papers are written for the local audience. And I know newspapers aren't episodic, but certainly some of the stories that they cover are. And so I would imagine too, they're probably written with a certain, you already have a little bit of background of the story to begin with before you're reading it in the paper. You know what I mean? Because it's small town and everybody knows everybody. And it was written that way, I'm guessing, so very cool. So now I would tell folks you can get the book on Amazon, but I would rather you hold out till Saturday and
Well,
come.
I never put it on Amazon.
Okay, I happen to see it there on Amazon, or at least a link for it. I know I'm going to point people to the Historical Society's website. If you go to roswellnmhistory.org, you can get a copy of David's book there. You'll obviously we'll have it for you on Saturday here, but if you're out of town or can't make it Saturday, you can get a copy of David's book. Again, the book is called Lee County Pioneer Profiles by David Minton, and it's on our Historical Society website, roswellnmhistory.org. There you'll also find Donna Blake Burchell's books, John LeMay's books, a bunch of our other local area authors' books. But if you'd like to meet and talk with David, come out this Saturday. The Historical Book Fair will be this Saturday, September 4th, again from 9 a.m. to noon, and it's going to be at the Historical Society's Archives Facility, which is at 208 North Lee Street, which is right next door to the J.P. White home, the museum there. They're going to have, if you feel like you like to gamble a little bit, they're going to have $5 mystery bags. And for $5, you get a mystery bag. You can't peek. And there's going to be some rare. You're going to come out a winner regardless. So I don't want to. Maybe I shouldn't tell you that if you're really doing this for gambling. You might lose your money. Never mind. But anyway, you get a chance that way, and you can get a cool rare book and have a little fun with it. Of course, we'll have David here signing books, and you can learn more about his book. Donna will be there. Donna Blake Burchell, John LeMay, and I think there might be a few other authors at the event as well on Saturday. So I got to ask, David, are you working on anything right now, or are you just focusing on being a historian?
Well, it's actually my job. I'm the Lee County historian. My office is on the 4th floor of the courthouse here. And
Oh, I guess I meant author work, the author side. Or are you working on any new books or anything?
There's just little sparks in the back of my brain that
Okay.
I'm kicking around.
Sure, little ideas that are percolating, waiting to vet out a little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right, I got to ask real quick, just put you on the spot. If there was one subject, any topic on the planet that you would give your left arm to write about, what would it be?
Well, as far as anywhere on the planet, my interest kind of stops at the state lines of New Mexico.
So I won't have to go very far.
And Oh, you know it right off the top of my
It's
head.
good think of it. I didn't know if there was like an event or a place or something that just piqued your interest that you always wanted to dig around and do. So you're probably like, well, I've done it. I went there.
Yeah, uh,
uh,
and I don't go back too far in my research. I mean, into the 1800s, yes, but uh, I don't, and I don't have a lot of giddy up go when it comes to topics that other people have written a lot about.
gotcha.
You know,
You want to hit the
Lincoln County War and all that. Everybody and his kid brother's written something on that.
Sure.
You know, and Billy the Kid. And so I like I say, I kind of like to try to help people be remembered that nobody ever heard of.
Gotcha. Well, I always
Everybody
say
should be remembered.
wherever, if you want to lead the horse to water here, go ahead and pick up those big subjects and read about the Lincoln County War. And when that gets your appetite wettened a little bit, then you can come and start reading about some of the lesser known stories of Southeast New Mexico.
Well, and I recently got a book about Billy Matthews from the society there, and from that book, it led me off into, I'll kind of say, down off trails that you know that interest me because it's somebody that nobody heard of.
Sure. Yeah. Well, just to kind of an example, and this is kind of in the middle. John and he was promoting his book about Ash Upton. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
It was about a year ago, and it was kind of funny because at the end of the day, I had to use something in a popular reference to get people to understand Ash Upton, and I had to use the Young Guns movie. And I was like, "Do you guys realize he was the person that John is writing about and everything is actually a fictionalized character in the book or in the Young Guns 2 movie? When Pat Garrett has the biographer follow him around and all. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but in the movie when Pat Garrett has the biographer follow, that's Ash Upton. That's the guy that he's profiling and all. They portray him a little different in the movie, but I was like, that's the guy, and you should read about the real guy and how it's much different and how. But it's sometimes you have to use popular references to get people to find the hidden gems in the woodpile there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah. So, again, let me ask, if folks want to do a little reading and visiting for the Lee County history, where online and things, is there a place you'd steer them to?
Well, the only place I could think of would be that genealogy trails.
Okay.
People have put quite a bit of information on there. That's the first one that pops into my mind.
Okay, I didn't know with your the history preserving you're doing there in Lee County and the historian there. I didn't know if you had any online places for people to go, or is it all just give you a call kind of thing?
Just for any. Well, yeah, the kind of the common things, the Ancestry.com and the Family Search and Newspapers.com and that sort of thing.
Okay. Very good.
And then get into the courthouse and go through the old records.
Yeah, you can. Courthouses are great places to go to, by the way. All of them. I know we're actually pretty fortunate here in Chavez County. That's another historic building, which, by the way, if folks, I know most people go there to either deal with court cases or traffic tickets, but if you get some time, there is a little cool museum in there and talks about the jail and all that great stuff. I highly recommend a visit when in between court cases there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, folks, don't forget the Historic Book Fair is happening this Saturday, September 4th, 9 a.m. to noon. It'll be at the Archives Facility, 208 North Lee with the Historical Society. There are going to be rare, out-of-print, historic, nonfiction titles that'll be for sale. There'll also be the $5 mystery bags. One random shopper per hour will also receive a free mystery bag there. Book signings from David here, also Donna Blake Birchall, John LeMay, and other authors as well. If you have any questions about the event, you can go to the website, roswellnmhistory.org. By the way, while you're there, do some shopping. You can shop for David's book here, Lee County Pioneers Profiles. You can get that along with the other authors as well. Peter Hurd prints all that, and every time you buy them through there, the Historical Society gets a help as well on that. So it's a win-win for everybody on that one. And of course, you can always call Amy at the Historical Society if you have any questions, 575-622-8333. And of course, come on out Saturday. Come and, like, if you have more questions or want to get a copy of David's book and just, pick his brain a little bit, come visit on Saturday, 9 to noon, and come. You've been through the house and everything before, haven't you? I'm sure, David.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It's a folks. If you've never been there, go make this Saturday an opportunity to go check it out. It's a beautiful place. It's just a great. I don't know. It's a great gem we have here, and it's right in our backyard. So check it out. David, is there anything you wanted to share that we skipped over or didn't get a chance to talk about?
Oh, I can't think of anything right now. Just hope to see you at the museum.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for spending a few minutes on the radio here with us this morning. Safe travels, and we look forward to meeting you here on Saturday.
You bet. Thank you, and happy trails.
All right. Take care, sir. God bless. Bye-bye. All right, that was David Minton. Join us. He's going to be at the Historical Society this Saturday, 9 to noon, and check out his book. It's called Lee County Pioneer Profiles. Again, you'll find copies of it at roswellnmhistory.org. All right, it is